Okay, this is a cue that I had to make this was actually for a TV show, scary TV show. So in this, we're primarily using strings. One of the techniques I used in this is repetition of a single note. I really like doing this for tension cues. There's nothing in my mind more ominous than just one note repeating. It's like there's an element of frustration with it. Like we just hear this note over and over and we're like, what is that note gonna do? And it can create a lot of tension if you do it right. So what we have here is this repeating violin note. Sounds like that. It's gonna happen a whole bunch throughout this whole cue. And then all of this weird tremolo, dissonant stuff happening throughout it. So just roaring strings. We've got one synthesizer element. This is just a low note that's going to start after the first after the second repeated note in that violin. This is going to start, and then it's going to exit right on this first big boom. So it kind of creeps in and creeps out just to add a little suspense. And then in this particular cue, it builds up to kind of a big climax. So we have just a lot of dissonance and scrapey strings and all this stuff. And then there's a big hit here. And then it goes down to nothing. And there's kind of a switch in the scene here. And then it kind of starts to build up again. And it has a smaller climax here. This is just kind of the architecture of the scene. So let's hear it, and then I'll talk you through a couple of elements, one in particular. Okay, that's the end. So that's kind of two cues in one, kind of. They're really close together, so I put them together. Okay, so there are kind of three elements that I'm using here that I'm using a lot. I talked about the repeated thing. That's an element, but not one of the three that I'm going to talk about. I could get rid of that, and a lot of this would still be effective as a tension cue. Because remember, a tension cue isn't the most in-your-face thing. You know, a lot of this just that sound of the scratchy bass, upright bass could be enough, depending on what's going on. I like that repeated thing, and it worked in this scene pretty well, but I don't always do that. I'll show you another one in a bit where I don't do that. So the three elements are, I'm going to use some kind of technical terms, ponticello, tremolo, and gliss. So let's focus in on those and talk about those three elements. These are orchestration techniques, and there are particular things you can do with the strings, but tremolo and gliss you could do with just about any instrument. Ponticello is specific to the strings.